And here we go again. Let's finish up with the testimonies.
Hi, my name is Melanie Plout. I'm a retired OBGYN physician,
Ooh.
and I'm concerned about the health impacts of continued diesel pollution in our city. As you know, we already suffer from a burden of diesel pollution that's higher than almost any city on the West Coast. And the decision of Trimet to purchase additional diesel buses,
Is an
which will
abomination.
contribute to heart disease, stroke, cancer, asthma in our children is really unconscionable. So I ask you to reverse
You're
this
not gonna
decision
reverse
of
the
purchasing
decision.
the
They
diesel
don't give a
buses.
shit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, he says.
President, Board,
You're gonna
thank
say
you for
fuck
the
you, but
opportunity
that's
to
what you
speak.
mean.
My name's Jay Featherston. I'm a Senior Vice President with Harsh Investment Properties, but I'm also the former transit-oriented development
Oh,
manager.
a
for the city of
capitalist. I
Phoenix.
love capitalists.
I'm here today as a interested citizen for progress in transit-oriented development and not representing any entity except for myself. I've reviewed the guidelines, and I just have a few comments that I think are in support overall of the guidelines.
Yeah,
But,
see, the capitalists love the guidelines. The people can't, because it's for
in the
them.
Balanced mixed uses provision, I am a strong believer in mixed uses that provide destination trips as well as origin trips for transit-oriented development, but it's not merely there for housing, but that people have a place to go, and that can include places to work. It can also include services, government services, entertainment, retail, and education. In the land use section where height and density are mentioned as incentives for development, as a developer, I'd like to see, or I think it's most productive when we see development that is actually happening as opposed to land speculation. This problem that we have in the city of Phoenix, and that the incentives are applied at the appropriate time and at the appropriate scale for the developments that are happening, and not merely to increase land basis. When land basis goes up as a result of heightened entitlements, it can actually prohibit transit-oriented development from happening, because now the cost is higher, debt is higher, and it doesn't actually go to buildings. It just goes to a higher cost. And so that can inhibit transit-oriented development if not applied properly. It's a great tool when applied properly.
Yeah, I believe the
For
capitalists.
scalability, I think that
Capitalists,
it's
they
not
got your
mentioned in
best
the
interest
guidelines,
at
but
heart.
it's something to think about as projects are presented, that projects that are scalable or in regions that are scalable, the quarter mile, half mile from transit, not just individual sites, can reduce risk and create greater outcomes within the area. Some of the previous development comments had similar echoes there. And then the last piece was just, as you're locating transit stops, that the community and also the development community are consulted. Trucks still need to service transit-oriented developments. Vehicles still need to get in and out, especially to be able to service in a safe way for drivers, operators, pedestrians, transit riders.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's very professional looking.
Mr. Featherston, I just want to acknowledge first off, I guess I would say is full disclosure, I'm on the board of directors of the Volunteers of America, which is a social service agency. And I want to acknowledge George Schnitzer, who's the head of Harsh Development,
Schnitzer!
really stepping up and offering.
Yeah, Bill
public
Gates is a
an
great
opportunity to
humanitarian
repurpose the
too.
Wapato Jail into what we wanted to do, a community wellness center. I just want to acknowledge it's probably not going to happen, but
No, it's not
Jordan
gonna
Schnitzer
happen.
and his offer should be acknowledged by the public and understood.
Yeah, great.
It was a pretty
We
magnanimous
love the billionaire
and,
class, don't we?
unbelievable offer that he laid on the table. It
Yeah.
sounds like we won't be able
Love
to
the
take it.
billionaires.
So
They
thanks
love
for
you.
coming today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll relay that.
All right, Deborah Olson and Anesta Headley.
Good morning, Board. I'm Deborah Olson. I'm
Oh.
from Gresham.
Wait,
I
we've
was
seen her.
lucky enough to get a transit ride here today.
Oh, she's a good one.
First of
I
all,
remember her.
I want to mention that I enjoyed the shuttle service in Gresham when the MAX was down for 2 weeks, 15 days. The courtesy stops at night were really helpful, 300 feet from my building on Burnside and Shattuck, where we have no bus service.
Oh,
Many of my neighbors, out of the 190 units, cannot walk the 3/8 of a mile to the Civic Max stop. I brought a picture of 2 out of the 7 pack. We have to kind of outrun the coyotes occasionally, so we don't become coyote chow chow.
I like her little
I
head.
also want to mention that there are
hair flare.
apartments going on one side of the Max, 381.
On the other side, there are going to be 435
Oh, my
apartments
God.
going up by the year 2023. That's over 800 apartments.
Oh, my
Your
God.
max
Oh,
line,
my
and only the
God.
max line isn't going to service all of us. There are townhomes and another apartment that's part of my Gresham Station community building of 63 units. We all can't fit on that one max. We need bus service on Burnside. My neighbors would like to get to the store. They'd like to get to the pharmacy. They might even want to stop by Heidi's restaurant. They'd like to get to urgent care, and it's not doable. They can't hike to 223rd. That's even farther than the Civic Station. I also use paratransit
Where's my clock?
services where they have been abusive, left me stranded, taken me late to medical surgery, and suspended my privileges for 6 days,
Yes, I
along
remember.
with 2 other neighbors. Also, I had the pleasure of waiting with a neighbor Friday night for his ride to work, his only job to pay for his insulin. He called Lyft. Lyft put him to Broadway taxi dispatch. After the 3rd time, she got very nasty and rude. So we're abused all the time. I did bring the story on the second apartment building being...
Yeah, the Lyft people really suffer. It's a goddamn disgrace. Okay, Trimet is a goddamn disgrace. How they service the capitalist class and treat the citizens like garbage.
built. And I'll stop there because you beat me. But we need services on Burnside.
Thank you.
We ain't gonna get it.
Good morning. I am Anesta Headley, and I live in the Gresham Station Apartments, and that's where I met Deborah. I am a member of the Community Alliance of Tenants and the Gresham Station Riders. I want to thank the board and others who planned and provided for a shuttle bus to serve us, as you heard Deborah reference. During the track renovation, that was extremely helpful, and some of us did access the shuttle at that time. I have appeared here before to request you to please plan for an electric bus to serve
You ain't getting
a
it, lady.
short area of the Burnside Avenue, which currently has no bus service of its own. Due to the topography, that is the slope of the Civic Drive in Gresham and the surrounds, it is not conducive for persons with physical limitations and various non-drivers with cognitive difficulty to get themselves to and from the max lines effectively. They do still oftentimes remember how to use a bus that would come to their own corner, and they do still seem able to find their way, if they have a ride, to do their own shopping, pick up prescriptions, get themselves to church, go to food banks, attend events at schools, etc., 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 which all are on or near Burnside. We need a bus line, we need it now,
You're not getting it.
not in 5
You're
years
not
after
getting
we're
it.
all gentrified out of Gresham. Thank you.
You're not gonna get it.
Nice timing. Thank you very much.
Nice timing, he said, you piece of shit.
Harlan Schober and Tristan Isaac.
Oh, Tristan Isaac. Tristan Isaac's the man. I might have to give him his own video.
Good morning. My name's Harlan Schober, living close in southeast Portland. As you can see from my outfit, I'd be here to urge you to walk back the decision about the diesel
Too late.
and
You're not walking
to
it back.
walk back a decision about stricter enforcement on
Nope.
fares. I
You
think
lose.
you can deal with two big issues. If you do that,
You fucking
it'll
lose,
probably
loser.
be difficult. But hey, that's why you get paid the big buck, right?
You get paid the big bucks to
I
serve
want
the
to see if I can
capitalist
get
class.
through reading a poem to you. What did you do once you knew?
Oh, I love it. Uh-oh, he's waking up.
It's 3:23 in the morning and I'm awake. Because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling?
Yeah.
Surely you did something when the seasons started failing. As the mammals, reptiles, birds were all dying.
Yep. He's right, man.
Did you fill the streets with protest when democracy was plundered? What did you do once you knew? Thank you.
Thank you.
You can see he really, that really broke him up. And he's got it right. It's exactly right, but he's dealing with a class of sociopaths that can't hear you. You know, they can't hear you. All they hear is Kelsey. Kelsey's not even from goddamn Portland. He's a goddamn technocrat who couldn't care less about Portland. Tristan Isaac, the man.
Good morning, directors, President Warner, General Manager. My name is Tristan. I'm a member of Bus Riders Unite. Today, I would like to comment on behalf of the operations employees without whom this agency cannot function. I'm talking about the mechanics, bus and max operators, and field supervisors whose day-to-day work is essential to getting tens of thousands of commuters to their destinations in a safe and timely manner. These workers are represented by the Amalgamated Transit Union 757, of which President Shirley Block is here today, which has a long history of securing and protecting the rights of laborers in the transit sector. The current working and wage agreement between Trimet and ATU 757 is set to expire at the end of 2019. Recently, both parties entered into contract negotiations for a new contract, but I was dismayed to learn that Trimet opened with a proposal that reneged on many of the agreements previously established under the current contract. Trimet has proposed cutting multiple essential positions and programs that respect and support its employees. Since becoming involved with Bus Riders Unite and taking part in Trimet's Transit Equity Advisory Committee, I've learned a great deal about the way Trimet plans and employs new service. In particular, I've heard time and time again that a major barrier to service expansion is the speed at which new employees, such as mechanics and operators, can be hired and trained. Why then have Trimet's labor contract negotiators put forward a proposal that guts apprenticeship programs for mechanics and eliminates crucial training positions?
Well.
Furthermore, if Trimet wishes to maintain and expand the level of service they currently offer, they'll need to foster a supportive environment for union employees to encourage retention and attract new applicants. Unfortunately, this doesn't seem to have been a priority for your negotiation team, as their proposal also removes seniority rights and opportunities for upward mobility, in addition to making it easier for employees to be medically terminated, which displays a lack of compassion for the physically demanding jobs these workers perform. We at Bus Riders Unite, when we ask Trimet to embrace strategies to use resources more efficiently, we don't mean to do it off the backs of hardworking ATU members who do so much to ensure we have a safe and reliable, accessible transit system. Rather than trying to cut costs to the expense of workers, instead make the choice to embrace strategies like dedicated bus lanes and transit single priority, which save resources by allowing buses to move forward quickly and efficiently through traffic. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
That was good, but not powerful. Not, you know, you're being nice.
Stop
being nice. Stop being fucking nice to these people.
And Jose Michaluskas.
Man, if I was up there today, I would, you know, I've been hanging out with people like Keith Davis and Eli Ritchie. Okay. If I were in that meeting right now, I would give them a taste of what I really think after hanging out with those two guys for the last couple of years. Okay, they don't take no shit. Okay, and these people are not strong enough.
Good morning, board members. On behalf of Opal Environmental Justice Oregon, I speak to comment on the TOD guidelines presented by Trimet. Transportation-oriented development projects present an opportunity to increase affordable housing centered around multimodal transportation hub, address environmental climate justice goals, and create communities where people live, work, learn, practice spirituality, and play. These projects should emphasize strong, preemptive, meaningful community involvement to limit displacement and gentrification that has frequently plagued these projects if not done with equity and communities impacted by such projects in mind. We believe the solutions to transportation and housing efforts without investment and empowerment in communities that has been hardest hit is not a viable strategy. We urge an intersectional approach that delivers on guidelines that are equitable. Several case studies have shown that when development is informed by the community voice and influenced by local activism, longtime residents can benefit from these projects. This approach can generate more positive impacts beyond just one project. Trimet's proposed guidelines lack community vision and do not go far enough to achieve what we should be mutual goals included, but are not limited to increasing local efficiency so people can walk, bike, and take public transportation, especially in communities where service lacks to begin with, boost transit ridership and minimize single-use vehicle traffic, provide a rich mix of affordable housing, transportation choices, and other services, create a more connected community that can successfully avoid displacement, maintain community identity, and are co-created with community-oriented vision. We call on you to delay the vote for these guidelines, craft the strongest possible community-oriented guideline by working closely with the community, developing with them before passage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, board members. My name is Jose Mikolaskis, a BRU organizer with Open Environmental Justice Oregon.
I did my best.
I am deeply disappointed that this board has not advocated for the removal of the projected fare increases currently in the budget. This fare increase would hurt the already declining ridership, especially those that cannot currently afford fare. I say this because I personally, even with the low-income fare, cannot afford fares half the time. I cannot ride the buses often because I cannot afford it. There was a time where I had absolutely no money for fare and my bike was broken. I cannot do anything and was left without any alternative modes of transportation. I was completely immobilized that week. Our bus transit system failed me then and is failing many more now. I constantly hear the voices of many riders that say they cannot ride the bus as often because they cannot afford it. We as a community cannot afford it. I see and talk with moms who struggle to pay for bus fares for themselves and their children, and it breaks my heart. It reminds me of my mom who had burns all over her arms from working as a cook at 3 different restaurants, just to be able to afford a minimal livelihoods which fares consume. One of many stories you hear on the buses. Now we hear a fare hike is being included for your future budget projections, and it's disgusting. The amount of people who I've talked to about the impending hike don't just oppose it. It incites anxiety and fear. This is not what my community needs. Study after study confirms that increasing fares would slash your ridership, leading to a spiral downward for our transit system. I am deeply disappointed and beyond furious at the recent public remarks about people paying their fair share when our communities have yet to be paid back the debt from being ignored for decades. This paints a false narrative that implies all communities have had the same investments made by the city and have been treated equally without oppression, when we know that oppression is still played out to this day. We know that black and brown people are overwhelmingly targeted by fare enforcers. Data shows that black and brown people
Time's
get
up. Shut up. Time's up.
approximately
Shut
more
up.
than 15
Time's up.
times
Shut
more
up. Time's up.
citations
Shut
than
up.
their white counterparts. Let's envision a future where
You
our
get 2
public
minutes. That's all you
transportation
get.
system is
2
known for
minutes.
removing barriers instead of
First, get
creating
2
them.
minutes.
Instead of investing the money used on the militarization of transit police, let's put that towards
Too
a
late.
fearless system.
They've already made their
This is the
decision.
best way to have flourishing ridership and community. Creating a fearless transit system is so integral to the success of our city and communities. We need you to lead this bold vision for our future and our transportation system. Ask you to invest our communities and you will see a return. Thank you.
Thank you. Next two are John Wheel and Brett Morgan.
Boy, they got a lot of speakers, man. That's the most speakers I can remember.
John Wheel here is just independent. I had basically a question, which I actually got some answers from your general manager and your general counsel before the meeting, about whether Trimet is pursuing grant money to help with the initial purchases of electric buses, given their extra cost. Perhaps you'll be able to share that with everyone later. I'd like to take it a step further and say, if you don't already, probably should have a person or a team working on this full time. The electrification of transit is both very difficult right now, but also extremely important. And, business as usual or taking the measured approach is all well and good, but we need to be, you need to be accelerating it in every way.
Well, we're not going to do that, my friend. Yeah, very nice.
Board of Directors, thank you for having me.
Thank you
My name's
for
Brett.
having me.
I work
No,
for
don't thank
1,000
them for
Friends
having
Oregon,
you. They're
and I'm here
required
with the
to have
Getting
you.
Together Coalition today. I just want to make reference
Stop
to
being
our
polite.
testimony we submitted.
Fuck.
In the letter in more detail talks about our concerns with the transit-oriented development policy currently being considered. I want to echo a lot of the other comments that have come before you today. We have a lot of concerns, and we as a coalition are really concerned about what the impacts are going to be when we're looking at the T2020 measure and the investments we're going to be making there. And we strongly urge a revision of this policy document with 3 considerations. 1, allowing more time. 2, meaningful community engagement. And 3, the creation of an advisory committee that will work with you folks and other community members to draft transit-oriented development policies that actually create affordable housing and address the concerns that are in our community. So thank you.
Yeah, okay, very nice. Thank you. Yep, good. Nice.
All right, the next 2 I have are Ed Averill and Andrea Gallegos Chacon.
Habla español.
I do have a written piece from Mr. Averill also. I don't know whether you got it. If you don't, I'll pass it around here. Please.
Hi, my name's Ed Averill. I'm a member of the Engineers for a Sustainable Future, the NGO of Oregon, and I'm a resident of Beaverton. And I want to talk about buses and electrification and their importance. And I'm going to shorten what I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, he says. Thank you.
Greta Thunberg can tell you that the UN gave us a message. And that message was that we must have our emissions as a world within the next 8 years. And that compares to the fact that most people are still, particularly in this state, talking about goals of 2030 and 2050. They aren't the same, and it's important. It's the difference between the probability of failure of survival and possible success. So 45% of our emissions come from the generation of electricity for our grid and transportation. And a part of a reasonable plan for removing emissions is first that our grid be pure, it be green. And that's doable, but it's not your problem, except in the sense that you are a consumer of that grid.
Yeah, I think it was.
Transportation can mostly be electrified. You're already on the way of supporting that. And that should be pushed very heavily. It can be done. It can be done quickly. Whether you have to buy new, whether you have to do retrofit, there is a way of getting there, and we must do it. That's our piece.
Yeah, well, they're not going to do it.
Metro area,
So
I
good
think.
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, board members and President Warner.
Don't-
My name is Maria Alejandra
Nice
Gallegos
to these
Chacon.
people.
I would get used to saying it because I have a feeling we're going to be working a lot together. I work for Opal Environmental Justice Oregon, and I'm a youth community
Yeah, I gotta
organizer
donate
for
some
East
money to
Portland.
them, right.
However, today the capacity I'm in for is testifying on behalf of Nicole Maynard, who is an administrator at Park Rose High School, and she asked me to read her testimony because this is during working school hours. So here it goes. Dear Trimet Board, my name is Nicole Maynard, and I'm the office manager at Park Rose High School. I have been designated the Trimet Hop Card distributor and program monitor at Park Rose for the last 3 years. The first 2 years we were using the program were given grant funds from another source, and this year we're using 2 accounts to manager the grant funds given by Trimet and the account sent for us to make sure purchases of the passes. Park Rose is the most diverse high school in the state. The representation of cultures, student body, and overall diversity is over 23, and we have 72% of free and reduced lunch population. Our community is small, and our district is small, but the ground it covers is wide. Our students work to help to support their families, participate in extracurricular activities, sometimes putting them in need after dark, and many of them help care for a younger sibling before or after school, rendering them unable to make school provide transportation times. I understand the need is great outside of Park Rose as well, and I'm not saying we're the most in need or that the only school would benefit from the program, but I want to convey that this letter is that we are grateful for the funds and are able to help our students. Some of those who only transportation option is public transit. We could just greatly benefit from additional funds. Being a small district does not allow us to fund availability for much else outside of the classroom. In October, we had 200 passes. Wow, y'all should really change that.
Yeah, they want you to know that
in October, we had 200 pass applications turned in. We distributed over 75 cards with passes before we even had them ready to go. The state that stopped allowing for October to be loaded. That was on Trimet's behalf. We will likely have almost 300 go out before the beginning of November, and at the rate of 300 cards a month, we will spend our allotted funds before we are halfway through our school year. The school district does not have the allotment of funds after that to allow us once the passes are spent. Again, I hope to express how thankful we are for the program and what has already been offered on our students. Please know that this is not taken lightly, but we do need an expedited process beyond grants and sufficient funding. Thank you for your time and consideration to this request. I can also forward this letter to you all.
Forward it all.
Thank you.
Like they'll actually listen to it. Well, I guess they got.
All right, we're almost in here. We have 3 more people.
Yeah, you can't wait to get rid of this shit, man.
Jennifer Chilcaine.
Here comes Keith. Another dedicated transit advocate. I gotta donate some money to Oakland. I regularly donate to them, actually. I think it might have been a little while since I've donated.
Good morning, Keith.
Yeah, good morning. My testimony was written out basically by the editor of the Portland Mercury, came out yesterday, and Trimet announced on Monday that they will be introducing even more fare inspectors to their routes. Apparently, because you are getting upset about people who are jumping on the train or bus for free. Let's go to Trimet's press release for more on this highly dubious claim. You walk up to the MAX station and tap your hop card on the card reader. When the train comes, you step on board to go to work, school, or wherever it is you need to go. At the same time, you see others hopping on board without tapping, without stopping at the ticket machine.
Yeah.
You wonder, are they paying for the ride? If you're paying for your fair share, shouldn't they? Right about that time, wouldn't it be nice to see a fare inspector get on the train? Trimet is increasing the ranks of our fare enforcement teams with the addition of 9 new fare inspectors. Now here's something about Trimet, the history of Trimet, who's celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, was originally founded as an antidote to privately held, profit-focused transportation companies who are gouging riders, especially those who are financially disadvantaged.
Yeah.
And then there's an article, Trimet was created 50 years ago today in an effort to avoid fare increases. With its vote of approval, City Council made clear that Trimet was created to solve the problems caused by fare increases, which include a decrease in ridership, reliance on cars and car infrastructure, and an increased hardship for people who, whether by default or by choice, rely on public transit. By adding more fare inspectors, Trimet is exerting their own brand of punitive justice and effectively criminalizing the poor,
which goes directly against their original mission statement. Thank you.
Don't thank them.
Good seeing.
Tell them to be fuck off.
Without your code.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't find it today.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer
funny.
Chokane, and I'm a private citizen, a concerned private citizen. I'm also a yoga teacher for seniors, and I also teach meditation.
I should do yoga instead. I drink.
In 1993,
I'll be dead.
Portland was the first U.S. city to create a local action plan for cutting carbon.
Yeah.
And Portland's Climate Action Plan is a strategy to put Portland and Multnomah County on a path to achieve 40% reduction by 2030
There's no money in it. You
and
ain't gonna get it.
80% reduction by 2050. The recent Trimet decision to move forward with purchasing a fleet of diesel-powered buses runs directly counter to Portland's Climate Action Plan to reduce emissions by 40% by 2030, as well as to give meaningful access to communities to equally benefit from the climate action and investments, and to be actively engaged in the development of climate-related policies and programs, as it's stated in the report. Since that plan was developed in 1993, we've had an update according to the IPCC just this year that actually indicated dire consequences if action is not taken in the next 11 years that would have sweeping and severe consequences for all of us, including the city of Portland, Oregon.
Well, you're not going to get
Moving towards limiting warming to 1.5 Celsius is not impossible. However, it would require unprecedented transformation in all aspects of our city and of our country. The next 10 years will be absolutely critical to this. The plan to purchase diesel buses, to me, shows a disconnect between our stated intention and vision and between the actions that are often often pragmatic in nature, but it's sort of disconnected from the necessity of this vision and this absolute imperative that we need to move towards. And so I am recommending very strongly that we update this climate action plan to update it with the latest science that's been available this year in 2019, so that we can really put ourselves at target to achieve those objectives to drastically cut emissions and instead of making decisions that absolutely run counter to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, our final person for the forum. We've gone a little long, but I want to make sure everybody has.
Oh, we've gone a little long?
Michael Foley.
Where are you, Warner, in your goddamn cohort? Did you see what he just said there? Did you hear what he said? We've run a little long. He should be impeached, okay? He's more concerned about how much time he spends listening to people than the people. This is a fraud, you understand? It's a fraud. This is a complete fraud. Why don't people get it? We've run a little long. Oh, poor you. You're not that blind guy. Oh, Jesus.
Okay, I'm Mike Foley. I'm from Clackamas County, and I'm here today to talk about the LIFT program and seniors in general. I'm very concerned that we don't get a fair share of attention.
Damn right you don't.
Moving children to and from school, workers to and from their jobs, all vitally important, but not any more important than moving us seniors and people with disabilities to medical appointments or to shopping or to recreation. We're allowed to have fun even though we're old. And I want to give you one example, and it's not a typical example of a lift, but it's not atypical either. I joined Lyft after getting hit walking down my very steep hill to my fixed route by a car that left me there on the side of the road. And after getting on the 32 and going downtown Milwaukee, stopping at my dentist where I was going, and they triaged me there and put me on the 75 over to Milwaukee Hospital. And I had no idea how far that walk was from the bus stop at the hospital to the emergency room. And when I got home with 3 broken bones in my foot, I signed up for Lyft. Been riding it ever since. And a month ago today, and once again, this is not typical, but it's not atypical. I had a meeting at the county. I volunteer for several county groups. I spent 2 years on the transportation board for the county, and currently I'm on the special transportation funding for Trimet. So I serve on transportation boards. But I had a meeting coming up a week ago or a month ago today that was from 3 o'clock to 4:30. Lyft picked me up at 2:15 to get me there by 3. I got there about an hour early, waited for my meeting. They were picking me up to take me home between 4:45 and 5:15. So I had maybe 15 to 45 minutes to wait to get home. Trimet had my cell phone number to call me in case there was an issue. At 5:30, no Lyft. I called them. They told me 8 minutes away. Okay, it's rush hour. I can understand that. And to cut this shorter, they finally got me about 7:45.
Whoa!
And so by the time I got home at 8:15, I had spent 7 hours for a meeting. I checked today. My wife rearranged her schedule to drive me here this morning. Had I taken Lyft here today, it would have been a minimum of 4 hours to be here for the 2 minutes you give me.
Yep.
And people wonder why we seniors, who are growing in numbers, we are part of the silver tsunami. And you have to understand the largest group of decade are people in their 90s. We're growing every day, and we need to be noticed. We need to be taken care of.
No, they don't need to be noticed. They're going to kill us.
I'm not sure that always happens.
No.
So I just, once again, I love Trimet. I love the Lyft.
I love them. I love them too. They gave me a job when I needed it, but they're fucking.
I had 19 hours of meetings last week, and then you add the Lyft time on there.
I love the guys who just go on and on and on after this.
I want to volunteer. I want to do those things.
Just keep going.
Other seniors and other people with disability do also want to.
Make them wait.
But many of them are dissuaded because they don't want to have to spend all day for a 2-minute conversation. So thank you guys. I'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, and sorry about your...
Yeah, you're sorry. Sure you are. All right, look, man. I'm going to show you right now, before I upload this to, let's see, where is it? Okay, I'm going to show you the proper way to do a testimony to these people.
To address council regarding war crimes of city contracted G4S security, private military contractors, mercenaries.
This is how you talk to these people, like this. Like this is how you talk to them. You don't respect them, you disdain them.
3 minutes, name for the record, please.
Fuck you, Wheeler.
And please, your G4S security mercenaries kind of rush.
Start the clock. Wheeler can't wait to get rid of Keith.
Please start the clock.
Yeah, Wheeler can't stand Keith. Look at him go.
So, I wanted to start off actually by talking about G4S and a big article that just came out in the USA Today about them hiring unhinged people, violent cops that smash people's faces into walls and then attempt to rape rape women and say, I'm the security, we're in control here, ha ha ha. And I see that same pervasive attitude here with the security here. And they violate people's ADA rights. They violated Joe Walsh's rights, my rights, all kinds of people's rights. And also, going on to something else, which is kind of more important, and it kind of involves you, Chloe Daly. Please don't leave. It's about your Peabot agency targeting a homeless family that was awarded domestic violence funds recently by the state because you guys, the city of Portland, are the perpetrators against a homeless family, Jay Vincent and his family. They're living in a school bus in St. John's. And you guys repeatedly targeted them for years and years and years until the state recently awarded them domestic violence funds to leave the state. That's you, and that's you, Chloe Daly. Remember when there's that photo of you sitting next to that banner that says "No war but the class war"? No war but class war, when you used to act like you were a little radical. Well, now you are the class war against the homeless. You've joined the oligarchy, and what did you do for Jay and his family? Nothing. You perpetrated war crimes, just like G for S. And I'm glad you didn't vote for them, but you did praise them around here when they deserve no praise. All you other people are disgusting. And hey, Ted Wheeler, Sunderland money? Returning that? What about Terry Bean money? What about Scott Ballow? What about Morel Inc., owned by a child pornographer that you hang out with, that every one of you, I'm pretty sure, gets your campaign stuff printed by? You're free to interrupt if you don't get your campaign stuff printed at Morel Inc., owned by Scott Ballow, busted for child porn. I know there's pictures of you hanging out with Scott Ballow. I've posted them on my Twitter, Multnomah County Cop Watch. And you're all smiling with the guy who was busted for child porn, and you're the police commissioner too? Yeah, that's real accountability. You guys gonna return Beans money? Nick Fish, Joanne Hardesty?
Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Are you gonna return the Bean money?
You're gonna sit down, or I'm gonna rule you out of order. You're gonna sit down, or I'm gonna rule you out of order.
Yeah, he'll rule you out of order. He sat down.
I'm sorry, you're out of
He
order.
sat down, and Wheeler ruled him out of
You're gonna
order.
have to leave.
He's leaving. Wheeler's
You're winning friends left and right, my friend.
He doesn't
Have a
want
good day.
you as a friend, Wheeler, you fucking piece of fucking shit.
Next individual, please, Carla.
Yeah, there's your oligarchs. That's how you talk to these people. Okay, you don't say thank you and be nice. They couldn't care less about you. Why are you nice to them?